Welcome back, fight fans, to another episode of GTS Combat. And yo, it's your boy Jimmy here with another highly anticipated fight to look ahead to. This time we've got a pro boxing bout on April 17th. It's the YouTuber Jake Paul taking on Funky Ben Askren, and I have to be honest, this one intrigues me. You may have seen my previous video with Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather, and in my opinion that was a joke match, and look, it looks like the fight's fallen through. They've said there's not enough interest in the fight, so they may reschedule it. We don't know what's happening. It's a bit up in the air at the moment, but this one here actually does intrigue me. You got Jake Paul, who's 2-0 on his professional boxing record, fighting a fellow YouTuber in Aneson in his first pro boxing bout, and then an NBA star in Nate Robinson in his second one, so an actual athlete at least in his second fight. And then after that, he knocked him out. He knocked him out, and he calls out the likes of Dylan Dennis, Conor McGregor, and he's landed on a fight with Funky Ben Askren. Now, anyone who knows Ben Askren will be aware that he's not the biggest kind of stand-up fighter. He's not looking to trade too many shots. He's not looking to just have an all-out brawl, really. We all know he likes to go back to his wrestling, but that is where his sort of athleticism comes from. When we're saying he's a combat sports athlete, I'm not just talking about the fact that he was a champion in 2 different MMA organisations within Bellator and one championship. He was welterweight champion in both of them organisations. We're then going back to his wrestling days when he was a national champion and an NCAA Division 1 wrestling champion. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm from England. I'm not all about this wrestling business. I don't really know too much about it, but I've heard about the NCAA and the Division 1 championship. So to me, it seems like a prestigious sort of tournament or whatever it is to win. And Ben Askren has done so on multiple occasions. So he's been there, he's done it. He knows what it takes to win. He knows what it takes to win in combat sports. When it's a 1v1, you know what I mean? When Jake was fighting Nate Robinson, he was an NBA basketball star, a team game. Yes, he was an athlete, but there's going to be moments when maybe he wasn't feeling himself and he could kind of hide behind some of his teammates, or if he wasn't having a great game, he could rely on some of his other teammates. Ben Askren's never done that, and he's only fell short twice in his whole MMA career. And okay, the one was to Jorge Masvidal, and we all know what happened there. The big flying knee, the 5-second knockout, the super necessary shots. But then after that, also against Damian Maia, and that one was quite... I feel like I learned a lot about Ben Askren in that fight. I'm going to be honest again, I didn't watch a lot of Ben Askren prior to joining the UFC. So his whole glamorous career coming in at 19-0, I hadn't seen a lot of it. I'd seen bits. He'd fought the likes of Shinya Aoki in his last fight before joining the UFC, and he'd also beat the likes of Douglas Lima and Lyman Good in the past. But then in the UFC, he stepped up against the likes of Robbie Lawler, and in my opinion didn't look very good in that fight. He was nearly out. But what I will say is, he took Robbie Lawler's fucking shots. The only person to ever knock Ben Askren out is Jorge Masvidal with that flying knee. Now that flying knee, if it landed on anyone, probably would have knocked him out. Maybe someone may have been able to latch on and not take it quite on the chin, or kind of ride it and get the takedown. But if it landed the way it did on Ben Askren, I'm saying most people were going out. Because like I said, you can't really say Ben Askren's known for having a glass jaw. He'd never been knocked out. He'd never really even been dropped in his MMA career prior to fighting Jorge Masvidal. So are we saying that Jake Paul's really going to knock out Ben Askren, a former MMA champion in 2 different organisations, a former Division 1 NCAA wrestling champion? And then we've got Jake Paul, who does have a bit of a wrestling background. I believe he done some at college or in high school. I don't think he ever went anywhere high and competed in it like Ben Askren. There's no real record of that. I haven't heard anything like that, so I don't believe that's the case. But he does have a 2-0 record on his professional boxing record, compared to Ben Askren is 0-0 in his boxing record. And Ben Askren's saying some interesting things when he's saying, when I was younger, for fun, me and my mates, we just throw on boxing gloves and throw down. Unfortunately, his stand-up game doesn't seem to show much evidence of that, or any evidence that he was winning them sort of backyard throwdowns that he was having with his mates. You know, like we've seen what Jorge Masvidal has done in the backyard. Like there's evidence of that, and then there's evidence in his game that, you know, he's a striker. Whilst with Ben Askren, it's very evident that he relies and falls back on his wrestling. And then when you're coming into a boxing match, you got to take into account Ben Askren, when he was striking at any sort of moment, and he was landing, if you are looking at any of his sort of highlight clips and seeing what his stand-up's like, if you aren't aware of who Ben Askren is really, then you have to take into account that a lot of them guys he was fighting were extremely afraid, or at least aware and concerned about the fact that Ben Askren is going to try take them down at any given moment. So they're constantly kind of dropping their hands ready to stop the takedown, and then that allows Ben Askren just to sort of hit them in the face, you know what I mean? He ain't going to be able to do that against Jake Paul because there's no takedowns whatsoever. It's a boxing match. So that element of his game's gone. That sort of fear that he puts into his opponents where they're afraid of him taking them down is completely gone. Jake Paul's just going to stand and trade with him. That's what this is. That is how this is going to play out. Both guys are going to meet in the middle and trade. How do I see it playing out? This is very tricky to fucking kind of pinpoint where you see this going. There's no real way of telling other than tuning in on April 17th, because like I said, we haven't got much to look at in regards to Jake Paul's abilities. We've seen him against a fellow YouTuber and a guy who looked like he's never fought in his life, in Nate Robinson. A guy who looked like he didn't even spar for that fight leading up to Jake Paul. He looked like he just looked out of his depth. He didn't look like he was meant to be in there at all. And credit to Jake is he actually does look like he should or deserves to be in there, at least at that level with these kind of opponents. You know, he looks like he's taking it seriously. He looks like he's putting in the work, and it's paying off with getting two quick victories against Aneson and Nate Robinson. He hasn't had to go very far in either of his fights. But could that be a factor? Ben Askren says that he is predicting a 7th round stoppage, whether that be a knockout or TKO. So that means Ben Askren is aware that he doesn't have the heaviest of hands, but he's confident in that he's got a better striking knowledge and abilities to be able to beat Jake Paul and just take him into them sort of deep waters that he's never been to, and just sort of wear him down and just break him down and just get the victory at the end of the day. That is what Ben Askren said he's going to do. Jake Paul says he's going to get a knockout quicker than Jorge Masvidal, as he's training with Jorge Masvidal for this fight. And I don't really see much in that. I don't see, obviously, him getting a quicker finish than Jorge Masvidal. I barely think there's going to be a punch thrown in the time that Masvidal knocked out Ben Askren. They're barely probably just going to be able to meet in the middle in them few seconds. But he's predicting a knockout, and I don't see much coming out of him training with Masvidal. You're training for a boxing match. Masvidal fought Ben Askren in an MMA fight that lasted 5 seconds. What is he really going to learn from Masvidal? He's not going to learn how to do a flying knee and knock him out, because you can't do that. And it's not like Masvidal's got much that he could take from that fight, as in like, yeah, he likes to try throw this, because all that happened was Ben Askren tried to take him down, and Masvidal knees him in the face. Fight over. Simples. So my prediction, I'm gonna lean towards Ben Askren. I have to. If you're not leaning towards Ben Askren, I'm sorry, but you're a fucking retard. I shouldn't say that. You're a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Because yes, Jake Paul has looked impressive, and he is 2-0 coming into this, and he has come off 2 knockouts. And Ben Askren's never done boxing before, and Ben Askren's never looked or even shown us any sort of anything in his game that would give you confidence in his stand-up abilities. But he was 19-0 in mixed martial arts prior to getting knocked out by Jorge Masvidal, and then he also lost to Damian Maia after that and got rear naked choked in the 3rd round. And in that fight, we saw a lot of stand-up, because both guys are kind of ground game fighters. You know, Ben with his wrestling, Damian Maia with his jiu-jitsu. So it stayed on the feet quite a lot, and it was quite funny watching, because Ben Askren looks so awkward when he's striking and you sort of trading shots. But I still have to give the years of experience to Ben Askren in combat sports, and I still have to say, being 19-0, you've fought some guys on that record, and you've taken some shots, and you haven't been dropped, you haven't been knocked down prior to the Jorge Masvidal loss, and because of that reason, I just don't see Jake Paul stopping Ben Askren, and I don't see him outboxing Ben Askren. Neither guy's a boxer, but I just don't see that happening. Ben Askren, you have to take into account 19 wins, 2 losses, an extensive wrestling career also. That's a lot. That's a lot of one-on-one combat sports experience in how to get the victory. And more times than not, Ben Askren has worked out how to get the victory. Am I really going to put confidence in saying that Jake Paul is going to trump Ben Askren in that sense? He's gonna come up with the goods to outwork and get the victory against Ben Askren, who's managed to do it for his whole career in combat sports, apart from twice. Okay, I don't know the ins and outs of his whole wrestling career. I saw he got a silver medal and some stuff, so he obviously fell short somewhere, but he was on a podium. He got a podium finish many times. So that's what I'm saying. My prediction is going to be a Ben Askren victory, and I'm not going for the 7th round stoppage. I'm just going for... You know what? I actually am, because if Jake Paul goes past 4 rounds, do I see him being that well conditioned? I'm not so sure, so I'm actually going with a 6th round TKO stoppage from Ben Askren. That's going to be my prediction. Let me know your prediction in the comment section below. I've been your boy Jimmy. This has been GTS Combat. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Till next time.